We've been doing a lot of videos on why you should change your oil, how important it is to service your suspension. And I get questions all the time, why so often? Well, I'm gonna try to explain that to you a little bit. The oil that we use is very high quality, and it's got a viscosity index rating. And as the suspension goes up and down and gets used and the oil goes through the valving and heats up and cools down, especially the shock oil, it breaks down. The viscosity index goes away. And I have guys call me, say, oh, I've been riding and my bike starts off good for a few laps and then it gets bouncy and fades and doesn't ride good towards the end of the race. And I go, well, how long has it been since you've serviced your shock? And they go, oh, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 hours. I go, that's the problem right there. I mean, you need to, the oil just breaks down. There's no more viscosity index left in the oil. Especially in the shock oil is very important. And obviously the faster you are and the harder you ride, the more often you need to change it. What happens is the oil has a viscosity index built into it. So they take a good base oil and they put chemicals in it and things to make it have a good flash point and friction modifiers and all this stuff. And it'll say, like, for instance, it'll say, 75, 380 on the bottle. Well, the 380 is the viscosity index. And so what happens is over time, the oil's getting shoved through the valving, shoved through the piston, heats up to 250, 300 degrees, cools off, and it's controlling, 12 inches of travel with only 3.5 inches of shaft speed. So it gets worked pretty good. So as it does this, the molecules that make up the viscosity index in the oil break down. They get sheared. It's called shearing the oil, the molecules. They get sheared to eventually there's no more viscosity index. And what happens at that point is the shock feels okay when it's cold. As soon as it heats up to any kind of temperature, it just fades and goes away because it has no viscosity index. So, and also it loses its lubricity, so it doesn't lubricate as well. So it wears the body out and wears parts out, and it doesn't dampen properly. So I get questions all the time. Oh, I was riding and my bike starts off good for a couple laps and then it just gets boingy and I've had to turn my clickers in. I go, well, when was the last time you serviced your bike? If it's been 50 or 60 hours, that answers your question. So as soon as the shock gets hot, the oil goes away. Basically, it's water. The bike bounces, kicks, gets mushy, does everything it's not supposed to do. So that's exactly why you need to service your suspension. I would say 15, 20 hours if you're fast and you ride hard. 30 to 40 is average motocross rider, play rider, 30 to 40. If you're just a trail rider, you can go 40 hours. But you need to change the oil to make the bike work and perform like it's meant to. And you need to use high quality shock oil with a high viscosity index. Now we're going to talk about the forks. The forks are kind of different because they don't move as fast. They don't get as hot. They don't do any of that. They move, they move 12.5 inches of travel, but they move much slower than the shock shaft does. So if you notice when you buy oil, a lot of times it'll have the Cinestokes, like for instance, it'll say 85-150 for fork oil is your normal racing fork fluid. 85 Cinestokes to 150 is the viscosity index. You notice on the shock oil, it'll say 75-380 on most of them. The 380 is the viscosity index. Some shock oil even goes as high as 400 because it's got a much better viscosity index, where the forks don't need as much viscosity index because they don't get as hot and the shaft speed is much slower. So when you got them hours on your suspension, do yourself a favor and your bike a favor. Bring it on into STR Motorsports. We do a lot of servicing. We can service your oil. We use high quality suspension fluids. We check all the wear parts, bushings, seals, wipers always get changed. We check bumpers, bladders, any wear part, change anything that necessary. We even check the shims to make sure there's no deformed, warped, cracked, any shims. So when you get them back, they're like new. So please send them in and subscribe to our YouTube channel and enjoy the videos.